Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and let me start off by thanking you so much for your patience. This is a long overdue Starfield video. We've been receiving so much info on the game lately, and now I'm going to compile all of it together. So we're digging through Eurogamer, GameStar, and that old AI AS interview by Todd Howard. And now let's get into it, starting off with Eurogamer talking about what next generation means for both Starfield and Bethesda Game Studios. That means to us two things, Todd Howard told me. It does mean hardware, and it does mean software on our side, and it also means gameplay. What does the next generation of epic single-player RPGs feel like to us? What systems we put it out on, what's the hardware requirements is still to be determined. We're pushing it. We're thinking very, very far in the future. So we're building something that will handle next generation hardware. That's what we're building on right now. That's where our mind is. But that doesn't mean it wouldn't exist on current systems as well. My personal prediction for Starfield has been since its announcement sometime around 2020 or 2021, which coincidentally is right when analysts are predicting that the next console lifecycle will begin with the PS5 and presumably the Xbox 2. If that were the case, it would make sense for Starfield to have a situation kind of like, we'll say, Metal Gear Solid 5, where there was that PS4 and Xbox One version that performed supremely better, but there was still that competent version on the PS3 and Xbox 360 that also worked just as fine for those who had not made the leap into the next system. Todd Howard did specify gameplay as one of those focuses for next generation, how that feels for them. What's next generation for Bethesda Game Studios, and what could Starfield bring to the table in that case? Now, the article actually mentions it, and it was the same thought I had, which was instantly spaceships. I think of some of the pillars for Bethesda Game Studios titles, which are exploration, that on-foot combat, character interaction, and then you put it in a sci-fi setting. Looking at the trailer where you think to yourself, imagine if we can go, instead of from place to place on foot, we're in a spaceship going planet to planet, and each of those planets has different races to interact with, quests to discover, different resources, different weapons. And I think that would be next gen for BGS because it takes their idea of exploration and brings it to a whole other level. Todd Howard specified Starfield was a single player game, but will it be a Bethesda Game Studios game in the way Fallout and the Elder Scrolls are? I don't want to say yes or no to that because I don't know what that means to you or whoever's going to read that. It's different, but if you sit down and play it, you would recognize it as something we made, if that makes sense. It has our DNA in it. It has the things that we like. Then he added, it has a lot of new systems we've been thinking about for a while that kind of fit the game really well. We'll talk about it in the future. See, now I wish I hadn't announced it. Once again, that kind of alludes to the idea that myself and Eurogamer had thought of, along with, I imagine, many other readers, that these gameplay systems are likely something along the line of spaceships, especially because he said it's something that fits the universe well. The DNA thing, that's something that I personally understand because I had always used that example for something like Call of Duty. When you see it, you know it. Same thing with Battlefield. You see it, you know it. There's just that DICE DNA, or there is that Call of Duty DNA. You can just feel it and see it and know what it is instantly. It's recognizable, which I think is important. A lot of what sells games is that first impression, that first look for so many consumers outside of the hardcore gamer realm. If someone who has just played a ton of Fallout 4 sees Starfield and recognizes, hey, this is kind of looking like Fallout 4 in the way the game handles, it's got that DNA, it instantly becomes appealing to them, knowing that maybe they liked Fallout 4 beforehand, that they may like this. Now, with a next generation video game, does that mean new technology for Bethesda? New engines maybe? Yes and no, it seems, according to an interview by GameStar. And I need to preface once again, this is a Google translated article, so if anything seems off, some of the wording, that is exactly why. Although the Starfield release date is still a long way off, developer Bethesda Game Studios is eliminating an engine switch. The new space game from the Elder Scrolls maker will also use the Creation engine, which has already been used for Fallout 4 and Skyrim. The game director Todd Howard confirmed this in an interview. Sticking to the old engine despite the development of Starfield for next-gen consoles like the PS5, Todd Howard explains, we like our editor. We know that. With that, we can build worlds very, very quickly, and the modders are very familiar with it. Bethesda's familiarity with the technology behind their open-world role-playing game seems more important to them than many players' desires for prettier graphics or shorter loading time. Todd Howard says, there are a few principles that we use to develop games, and that will not change because it makes us very efficient and we think it works best. According to Todd Howard, however, the technology used is no longer the same as that used in earlier studio titles as the technical foundation. Even the multiplayer offshoot Fallout 76 differs greatly in the terms of technology from the fourth part of the series. For Fallout 76, we have changed a lot. The game uses a completely new renderer, a new lighting model, and a new system for creating the landscapes. For Starfield, even more will change, same with ES6, which is really far away. However, Todd Howard also points out that the terms are confusing. I think the majority of people who do not make games themselves do not really understand what the word engine means. Engine is one thing to them. We call it technology. There are many items. Things change with every game: the renderer, the animation system, the scripting language, the enemy AI, the controls. Some people still talk about game brio, but we have not used them for a decade. This is an interview answer I'm very keen to see the community's response to, because I know everyone's really been clamoring for an engine change. But with that said, Bethesda Game Studios is no longer that small 100-man studio. They've expanded to 3 studios now with multi-hundreds of people, where I don't think this efficiency of the same engine over and over to make sure that they can get these big games out with such a small studio size is fully necessary. They could take the time to overhaul, create something new. But I think it's really, really awesome that they highlight the modders and how important it is to them that they keep that community alive and that people don't have to relearn everything, because not only is it tedious for probably Bethesda, but it will be tedious for modders to learn a whole new system. I did mention the AIAS interview by Todd Howard, and I think that does highlight the focus on at least new technology, as here's what he had to say about a new animation system.
You know, take an animation system change that we're doing right now. We're finishing for one of our projects, though that's a project that's in pre-production, getting a new animation system, whereas the one that's in full production is using the old one. But those people look, and what happens though is that fuels them. The animators in production are commenting on the animation system in pre-production, and they're getting excited for, hey, I'm going to get to use that when I roll onto when that project rolls onto production.
So we know there's going to be something new implemented into Starfield of some kind, along with many other changes that hopefully come with the next generation. Just it's not coming with that full engine switch, which is when a lot of people were expecting Bethesda to shake off that old engine and move on to something new. Considering Todd Howard had already confirmed that Starfield was actually playable in an interview with Jeff Keighley, and we're already talking about console releases, technology, it really makes me optimistic that this game can be out within the next 2 to 3 years. I think a lot of it hinges on the success or failure of Fallout 76. If this game is widely successful, we may see a Rockstar situation where Bethesda Game Studios doesn't feel the heat, doesn't feel the pressure to get something out instantly. They can just allow Fallout 76 to monetize and get them tons of cash while they work on this brand new IP. We have to remember also that not everyone knows what Starfield is. Elder Scrolls and Fallout are highly recognizable brands because they have had many entries and they've become popular with each one. Not that Starfield can't be popular, because Bethesda Game Studios does have a reputation, but there is going to be a lot of marketing. There is going to need to be a lot of talk about this game and a lot of trailers that have to be shown selling this game to a whole new audience, not just people who are familiar with brands already. So it will be an interesting hurdle for Bethesda to climb, but that's all the info I got for you guys so far on Starfield. Once again, I thank you guys so much for your patience. It's been a lot of Fallout 76 lately, but now it's good to sit down and talk Starfield for a little bit. This is one I just really can't wait to see, because this is like the first new IP in, what did they say, like 25 years? The idea of that, I mean, it's got to be so exciting just to be developing that. I imagine that they're so keen to just get Fallout 76 out of the way so they can go all aboard on Starfield. So here's hoping like maybe next E3 we hear some more about this game. I mean, everyone's going to be pressing Todd Howard for answers on 3 games now. It's always going to be the trio of 76, Starfield, and ES6. So I'm sure his interviews are going to be very interesting as time goes on. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this Starfield info in the comments down below, so do fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content we create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.